from Irish Arts Centre.
Hi, I'm Dirk Powell, a musician and composer from Lafayette, Louisiana, speaking to you from the banks of the Bayou Teche. Several months ago, as the world was altering itself in so many unforeseen ways, Irish Arts Centre reached out to me and told me about a project called Grasta, where they were commissioning 26 artists to create a piece inspired by the idea of finding grace in uncertainty. They asked many artists of many disciplines to consider the question whether anything good, any kind of hope, could come out of this seemingly bleak moment. I was so glad to get the call because I'd been reflecting on those things myself, asking the questions of whether or not we could find some meaning that would carry through the end of this era, things that would resonate with us, and when we looked back, help this era not just be a time of loss and suffering, but something that changed our lives for the better and brought us ways of looking at life that had value. And I really wanted to explore that. So getting the opportunity to do so was a special thing for me, and knowing that I would be collaborating with Irish Arts Centre. In the past, we'd had so many good experiences working together. And in thinking about how to proceed with that, I reached out to my friend Mike McGoldrick, who's one of the most soulful musicians I know, wonderful composer, uilleann pipe and flute player of Irish heritage, living in Manchester in the UK. So when me and Mike started talking about it, we came up with some ideas that were both unique to our stories, but also had qualities that we thought could reach out to a general audience and bring something positive. But before we dig into that, I thought we could talk about this past year and what it's been like for us. Mike?
Well, Dirk, it's certainly been a very different year to the normal years we would have as a musician. Being home for a year and not touring, for me, would be 6 or 7 months of the year taken away. So adapting to a new way of life and thinking out of the box of keeping myself occupied has been my biggest thing during the whole year. So what I've been doing is a lot of community-based stuff. I've been helping a local Irish radio station that couldn't go into the studio, so they did a live Facebook thing every week, and I've been giving them a piece of music every week to play to boost the morale of the locals, to the people that watch it. And then I've been doing split screen songs with local musicians, and then I've been learning the whole new world of editing afterwards, which has been Final Cut and iMovie and troubleshooting and all these kind of things. And the other thing is I've been visiting my parents every week and being their carer and looking after the shopping for them. And only recently in the last month as my father's been out for the first time because he's had the vaccine, homeschooling with the kids. And the positive thing is me and you getting to work on projects. And there's lots of projects that are just left in the air at the minute that will finish when we get to meet people again. How about you, Dirk?
Yeah, it's been fairly similar. Definitely been taking care of the older generations and trying to help them. And my mother as well just got the vaccine not too long ago and had her first hug in a year. You know, when you think about that, going through your whole life and then suddenly no human touch or contact really for that length of time. And it's been that kind of moment where I think a lot of the things that are the most important have come into focus, and went from a moment of so much sort of exterior energy, everything going out and everything always being on the run and kind of moving, and the world seeming so small that we could be anywhere, anytime, to a feeling of, wait a minute, yeah, there's roots here, and these roots are important. And then at the same time, like you said, connecting virtually more than ever. So it felt like being very local, but also more connected in other ways. So it's been quite a time.
There's definitely a new thing I've learned. Well, it's not new, but working on your own, you realise that the thing I'm looking forward to the most is meeting people and playing music with other people, because I've found that, well, I'm not saying that my stuff isn't any good and I need to work with other people. I'm waiting to share the music that I've been writing with other people, to interact with them and hear the music progress and develop. And I can't wait. If I was sat in a room with you, Dirk, we would bounce off each other and come up with new ideas. And this has been a new way of approaching things. And
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that cross-pollination, you kind of realize that it's really two or more becoming one, and then something new coming from that. You end up lacking that. But at the same time, we've been able to do that from afar, and that's been so exciting. That's been one of the best things.
My father, he's from the west of Ireland, and he moved to England in the 1950s with a lot of his fellow countrymen to work in construction, and he met my mother. He told me a story, because he taught me music, and my mother brought us to a music lesson every week on the bus. And she and him brought us up with the Irish culture, even though we were living in England. They brought us up very much playing Gaelic football. My sisters did the dancing and we did the music. And he told me a story that when he was little, he used to lie in the back field and just lie there and play his whistle and look up at the stars and hopefully one day dream of that this music will take him and travel and go to the concert halls and go to the dance halls and play music one day, when he was a little boy. Which, when he came to England, he didn't continue on that dream. But what he did was bring his family up, bring his kids up, and me and my brothers and sisters all played music.
Yeah, I feel a very similar kind of gratitude for my grandfather, who the music that he gave me, it gave me everything. It gave me everything that I have. I don't know what I would have. I wouldn't have my family. I wouldn't have my livelihood. I wouldn't have my friends. I wouldn't have this gift that he gave. And I know that we both share that, Mike. And also my grandfather, in a similar way, worked in a steel mill for 40 years. And I say it all the time, but I know you feel the same. I would have given anything to experience one night that we get to experience frequently.
Absolutely.
To be on stage in front of a big crowd and feel all that back. And he never got to do it even once, much less night after night. So the debt is heavy, but at the same time, they never asked it to be paid. The fact that you got to live it was a dream come true also.
I have got huge thanks to my parents we didn't have much money at the time. We couldn't afford instruments, expensive instruments, but they bought every record you could possibly think of, and they helped us buy, instruments that they could afford, and they took us to music because we didn't have a car, so we went on the bus, whether it was raining, whether it was sleet, whether it was snow. They brought us 2 times a week to play in the Ceilidh band classes, and it was a, sheer dedication that they brought us every week, and we didn't miss a lesson. And Dad sat down and played music with us up to that point of saying thank you very much for everything you've given me. And I mean that from just every day when I play music.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
Wow,
And this year has been, while a very big challenge, it's also been a chance to pay back some of that care.
Yep.
Like you say, when they haven't been able to do things for themselves sometimes, and of course they do that for you when you're young, your whole life, and to get the chance to
It's true.
pay some of that back.
We've seen more of each other in the year. It's been, even from a distance, socially distanced from the door, dropping shopping off at the doorstep, to now I'm in the bubble and I've been visiting, me and my brothers and sisters. And I've been having the best time ever. I've been sitting with my parents and listening to them, telling stories of when they first came to England and when they were going to clubs and Mum singing. There was a great story. He said Mum would walk into a bar and the landlord would come over and give Mum a drink and say, "Teresa, give us a song." And my dad used to say, "What about my drink?" And the landlord would say, "You're not singing." He said, and your mum would start singing. It'd be a small back street terrace pub in the city centre of Manchester. And somebody would run across the road and say, "Teresa Walsh is singing." My parents weren't married at the time. "Teresa Walsh is singing in the pub." And he said, everybody,
wow.
All these Irishmen that were over working on the building sites would come over to listen to these songs my mother was singing in the other bar. And the landlord knew. He knew if he bought my mum a drink, borrow it down and says, "Give us a song, there's a free drink." He knew he'd pull the other people from across the road in to come and listen to it. And that was a story I never heard before, I said, "Well, I didn't know you did." "Oh," she says, "Yeah, she sang in all the pubs, in the 60s, yeah." So you get to find out new stories.
Well, recording Which Star Are You Going to Follow, which morphs into Waiting on a Greyhound, it's just been an experience that feels like it unifies so much of what we share, both in terms of what the music means to us in history and family and connection and all these other levels, but also experientially and things that we've we've shared. I mean, when you first told me that story about your dad lying in the field and saying, which star am I going to follow?
Yeah.
We were on tour in Ireland. We had a 10-day tour and just roaming the countryside, playing, little venues, and it was such a magical time. And that story always resonated with me so much because I feel like we've been able to do what we do because of what the previous generations offered to us. And, it was wonderful to get your musical ideas, your tracks, and start to think, okay, we can make this something special,
When I read the lyrics, there's a part in it where he's looking up at the stars and reaching the stars in the palm of his hand. And straight away, I got it.
The second half of it, Waiting for a Greyhound, which is a tune that I wrote, because my mother was in the hospital at that time in 2017, when I wrote that tune, I couldn't go get Mike and some other musicians in New Orleans as I was supposed to at the airport. So they had to take the Greyhound over to Lafayette. And, there's no more real way to dive into Louisiana than taking the Greyhound from New Orleans to Lafayette. I mean, that's the real deal. And so it's really interesting the way that tune evolved. While I was waiting for Mike to get off the Greyhound bus, I just started whistling that tune, and I just came up with that tune in my mind and thought, oh, this would be a cool tune, Waiting for a Greyhound. And while that was going on, unbeknownst to me, he was actually recording the bus driver speaking in the bus, announcing to the passengers the extreme punishment that would happen if the music was too loud, which is that they'd be asked to turn it down. It's going to get harsh. You're going to be asked to turn it down. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So that's the second half of this piece that we created. Coming out of Which Star Are You Gonna Follow is that recording that Mike made on the Greyhound from New Orleans to Lafayette, and then the tune that I wrote while I was waiting for him to walk off the bus.
On a ferry, I rode on a bus, I walked down the lane, fingers clutching to my old mandolin, removing my coat to protect it from rain. Returning to the ground my father had tilled, old stones falling back into the land. Lying on my back in the old top field, holding the stars in the palm of my hand.
Which star are you gonna follow? They were so close, but I never chose. Don't wait until tomorrow. It calls your name, so let it claim your heart.
Starlight because you looked down, and weight-bearing feet so sure of their step, forging ahead through the asphalt and steel, climbing a mountain paved in cement. Your view too close, your muscles too strong to know how high you were carrying us all. And by the time you told me to choose my star, I was so close to the sky that I could.
Which star are you gonna follow? They were so close, but I never chose. Don't wait until tomorrow. They called your name.
was I returning? I say it because you're part of me. I say home, but was it my home? I say it because I'm part of you. I navigate this world by the star you say you didn't choose. That star led me around the world. Brought me friendships I never thought I'd have. Gave me a family and a way to support them. At the end of the day, a home to come back to. That star. Music.
Please put it on silent or vibrate. We don't want to disturb our fellow passengers as well as the driver. You're listening to your music or playing your games, please make sure you use your headphones for your listening pleasures only. If I hear your music up there, I mean it's too loud, I'll make you tone it down. All right, our first stop, Baton Rouge, 230, Lafayette, 350, Lake Charles, 520. We good?
Well, Mike, it's such a pleasure to work on this piece with you and just shape it from the first few guitar notes through the entire thing that it became. And it's, I always know anything that we take on together, by the end, it's going to be something that has love in it. I know I've said that before, but that has an intention to bring something to people that's not mundane or not typical, but something that's going to hopefully have some positive influence. So,
Dirk, the first time I ever heard your music, I said, you were playing Cajun music, and I said, that music's got the same soul as the music that I was brought up with. It's an honour, really. Honestly, I really enjoy working on any project that you throw my way, and especially this one. It's been the start of something. I think we've
Absolutely.
started something. It would have been brilliant to have you in person. Anyway, that's what we'll look forward to. Waiting for the Greyhound 2.
yeah,
Okay?
exactly. And taking the Greyhound back to New Orleans.
Yeah.
I'm Rachel Gilkey, Director of Programming and Education at Irish Arts Centre. My thanks to Dirk Powell and Mike McGoldrick for their terrific piece. We first got to know Dirk when he spent a week with us in residence in 2018 with Rhiannon Giddens, and have enjoyed getting to know Mike through this project. Grasta, Grace and Uncertainty, is a production of Irish Arts Centre. Special thanks for our theme music, Ina Valley Rockin' the Boat, by Martin O'Connor, Cathal Hayden, and Patrick Doucet. Irish Arts Centre is proud to present this podcast as part of Carnegie Hall's Voices of Hope Festival. Irish Arts Centre digital programming is provided free of charge and supported by listeners like you. To make a tax-deductible contribution, or to learn more about Irish Arts Centre programming in our Grosta Commission series, visit irishartcentre.org. You can also sign up to receive alerts about the state-of-the-art new Irish Arts Centre opening in Hell's Kitchen later this year. That's irishartcentre.org. And thank you.